One of about, I don't even know what number Tribeca interview I'm on. So I'm super excited to have this young lady here today. I'm going to have her introduce herself before we start.
Hi, thank you for having me, Cindy. My name is Manya Glassman, and I'm the director writer of How I Learned to Die.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, bunch of different questions about you. The first thing I want to ask about, super important. I know in the past you've been both a scholarship and a production grant recipient. One of the big things we talk about in filmmaking is how to get money, how to get assistance in general. Can you give
Mm,
us some maybe tips or anything that you've learned that might help out fellow filmmakers to try to get that financing?
yes. The first one that comes to mind is really already knowing the resources that you have and tapping into that. I love New York and I'd love to consider myself a New Yorker. I've been here for 6 years, so I guess I have four more till officially. But I'm from Providence, Rhode Island, and Providence, Rhode Island has been incredibly generous with a lot of the grants that they've given me. And a lot of places, like including New York, but a lot of places, if you're not from New York, will want to support their sort of like homegrown filmmakers. And so I encourage um, people to just like go to whatever the local film office is, ask what grants, like if there's a film festival that's based in your hometown, even as small as it can be, ask them about how they can help. Um, and then otherwise, the way that I've found production grants have been through research, have been through, asking filmmakers what they've done and and people that I admire and trying to follow their footsteps.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Really super important thing. So I was trolling on you on
Hmm.
social media because that's what us journalists do. I'm going to
Right.
get big brownie points if you tell me where you get the NASA sweatshirt because my kid's in astrophysics and he would totally dig that. That's one. Number two, your fashion sense. I have to know where the purse with the broken heart came from.
Oh, okay. I actually have it like right around I could grab it. Really, really good questions. So the NASA is actually from my grandfather worked at NASA for 30 years. Yes, as an engineer. And so um I got that in I so that's besides the point actually. I got that in Houston, Texas
Sure.
when I went there. Yeah.
Okay.
But he worked at NASA in Florida. And then right now, my brain is half distracted. I actually have to look it up. It's a local designer boutique in Rhode Island.
Okay.
But they do deliveries and everything. The Broken Heart slash Real Heart purse. I need to find it. If you, I can do it at the end and tell you.
Yeah, that's perfectly
Okay.
fine. I want to switch gears to a serious question now. I know that
Okay.
you have said publicly that you challenge yourself to make a film in one day. Every year you challenge yourself to make a film in one day. So I want to ask you about that question. That's pretty big task. I mean, for anybody, including
Yeah.
me or other writers, etc. Tell me what was the inspiration behind pushing yourself in that? Because that's, like I said, it's a big task. So why do something like that?
These are great questions. I do that because it's a good reminder that like this is why I want to make films. I want to just create. There's nothing, you know, more special than the actual process of creating it and then having that. And I think that a lot of times we now, I mean, we think of life a lot as like a means to an end. And a
Mhm.
lot of what we do and work is like we're doing this to accomplish this. But it's very rare that we kind of shift our focus and think, I'm going to do this for the process of it, for just the pure enjoyment of creation. And so
Okay.
that's why I like to do that. I like the challenge and I like to know that like this is just for me and exercising my ability to create.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. Have you been able to keep your goal every year?
I have.
Well, good for you. Look at her. She's a go-getter at a young age. Okay. You have been a director for approximately 5.5 years or so. I noticed that your trend tends to be that every single one of your projects is a short film. A very wise director, or they say very wise director, once said to me that doing short films is the testing ground to build a phenomenal future in feature film. So, do you envision yourself now kind of hanging up the short film hat rack and saying, okay, now it's time for features alone?
Yes, exactly. I this last short that I did, How I Learned to Die, was exactly sort of the merger into that, because that short is a proof of concept for the feature script. And
Sure.
so now I'm doing features. Yes.
Again,
Let's
what do
do
you
it.
enjoy about the short
Mhm.
film genre that might frighten you about taking the leap into feature films? There's some comfort where you are at right now.
Mm. What's funny is like the first thing that comes to mind is the literal on-set production.
Ah,
It's great to just have like tops a week to film something, and a
sure.
feature is a completely different beast and very physically demanding. And so that's like on a practical level. On a story level, I mean, essentially, a short, a lot of times a short's just a scene. And so it takes a lot to master one scene, 10 minutes, like one, 20 minutes, whatever. And so thinking about wanting to have the same discipline of mastering that short, but also doing that then times, six or
Yeah.
whatever, that will take another level of discipline and focus for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and the second thing we have to all consider is when you're in New York City, there's things like permits and all sorts of financial
Right.
obligations that come along with a feature. Does that frighten you at all? Because it scares the heck out of me and everyone else.
Well, that's the biggest hump, I think.
Yeah.
Like for How I Learned to Die, we have the script, we have all of the locations, everything is there, and it's just about getting the money. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it.
That is pretty much it. You betcha.
Mhm.
Okay. Outside of you doing films, I also know that you offer photography services. So I want to ask you a question relative to that. It's been said by many, many filmmakers that what you capture during a film is not the same as when you capture something behind a camera lens as a photographer. Would you agree with that? And tell me the most beautiful thing you've captured on your camera so far.
Mm. Damn, Cindy.
I mean,
Um, really? Yeah. Okay. So I love it. So what's different about photography versus being behind the camera for
yeah,
photography, and then it's nice how you can take a picture and it tells a story without, and but it's more up to the audience to think of like what that story is and how it relates to them. A film, like there's definitely a certain amount of like I'm imposing the story on you, but
yeah,
with just one still image, people can think of anything. Um, yeah, even for example, I went to yoga this morning, and through the glass there was a little girl, she's 5 years old, and she was just like poking her head and like looking through the glass, and I took a picture, and there's another woman. It's a really simple picture, but like you can think of so many different things of what is she thinking, and like who is she here with, and what,
yeah.
it's I think that's the difference. And then the first thing that comes to mind of most beautiful picture is probably my grandmother's hands.
Good answer. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, we want to talk about school for a second. I know that you have raved, and when I say raved, I've read it. Well, how you've spoken so exquisitely about NYU Tisch School of the Arts. So, for any
Mhm.
person that might watch this today, what would be your personal, if I were to say to you, rather, the number one reason why someone should pick that school over, let's say, Fordham or other universities?
Mhm. That's the best. The number one reason they, I mean, it's just different. It's different. They give you the practical tools. I know a lot of schools are production oriented, but they somehow foster an environment that's not competitive,
Mhm.
incredibly collaborative. They choose people to be in it that are so different from each other, but all share the ability to tell a unique story. And so you might not be from a film background. You might be a painter. You might be an engineer, but everyone has their own unique story, and NYU puts them all together. And yeah, these are some of the best collaborators I've met that I will work with for the rest of my life.
Okay.
And then the other reason is their teachers. I mean, Spike Lee teaches at NYU. We have
Hmm.
working professionals that also will, hire you and base things off their own experience and then help you, in the work field. So yeah, I can't rave about NYU enough. There's a million other reasons too.
No, I understand completely. I do. I
Mhm.
just wanted to get some kind of hindsight for people listening in terms of your education, because I know you've spoken a great deal about that. Clearly, of course, you were a TA, I should say, for Spike Lee. So I know
Mhm.
thousands of people have asked you what he's like, and I'm not going to ask you that. Rather, I myself had a director who is my mentor as well. So my question to you is, when you look at someone like Spike Lee, as you're building out your own career or carving your own path, how similar would it be based upon some of the beliefs that he's taught you? Are you going to adopt some of his philosophies as a full-time filmmaker going forward?
100%. The biggest thing, or one of the biggest things that he's taught me is just do. Like he always quotes Yoda, um, do or do not. There is no try.
Okay.
And that is the philosophy I want to put. There's a difference between being, like looking at the industry and looking at the world and being cynical versus being realistic. And I think like having that shift and being realistic and putting into action, you know, taking all of the information and then putting it into action is something that I've learned from him.
Okay.
He yeah, he's so encouraging to just believe you can do it and then go do it.
And not only that, I love the fact that he teaches there. I love that he gives back to his community quite a bit. I have some
Yes.
friends that have worked with him, and I looked at him in your picture and others, and I'm like, is he really that short? He looks like he's a very small person. Like, like just tiny little. I mean, is he really that small?
I don't know because I'm short. So I feel like maybe we're eye to eye. I don't know.
I get you. So now the $1 million question is clearly Spike Lee is the executive producer on your project. And so the $1 million question for a lot of us is always when you want to get a recognizable name to notice your script, and let's say they don't go to the same school or they don't have direct access to someone like that, what do you think it is that drew him in and made him sign on the dotted line and be like, I want to be part of this?
For him, it was a story,
Okay.
and he supports any story that he believes in, essentially. And
Nice.
people always say that, but it does come down to it. It's just like if you have a really good story, then you'll find the support.
Yeah, you bet. That makes perfect sense. Okay. The project is called How I Learned to Die. It had three
Mhm.
screenings at Tribeca. It had its world premiere. And most importantly, it got the Student Visionary Award, which was so exciting. I'm like, that's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Very well deserved, I must say. So I know you spoke at great length about how important it was and how happy you were that it got to Tribeca. So, being on the filmmaker side of things, what do you think made them choose your film? This is kind of your brag moment. Like, what is it about the project besides the story? That's a given. What else do you think drew them to say, yeah, we want this?
I think it's the tone. I believe that's different than the story. I think the tone
Mhm.
is what drew them to it because How I Learned to Die, you know, is talking about something heavy,
Yeah.
mortality. But it was important to me that the tone was light and comedic
Yeah.
and balancing that mortality with like that youthful comedy. And so if I had to say, I would say that, the programmers at Tribeca saw that and and felt that there was a good amount of uplifting, qualities that the film had
You
that
bet.
would screen well.
The casting, I think, was pretty phenomenal. Let's not forget about that. The location was terrific, so that was wonderful
Thank
too.
you.
I could go on and on about it, but those are just my little thoughts, and I wasn't on the panel or judges, so there's that. Um, I've read quite a bit about this being semi-autobiographical, and the first thing
Mhm.
I want to mention is 18 surgeries for yourself at a very young age. That's
Mhm.
incredibly difficult. How did you find your way to keep yourself either separate, meaning how much of you
It's funny because like I didn't think that much, but my friends who have come to the screening, they're like, "You're exactly like her," and
really?
yeah, and I find that really interesting because when casting Lola, um, I ended up going with Lola because Lola Darling, after auditioning like around 200 girls, I ended
Mm,
up going with her because she was different than what I had intended.
okay.
And something about that kind of scared me. But I also liked the idea that there was something new that I could bring to the story that I already knew so well.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I think Lola's probably funnier than me. But I don't know. I mean, truthfully, yeah, I felt that it was very different and maybe just her general personality is so different than mine, and so directing her was easier for that reason.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Was there ever any inclination to be your own lead?
I uh I I had thought that like if like a terrible situation had happened or something and Lola couldn't act, that I was like, all right, if like worst case comes to worst, I'll just like step in. That was in the very, very back of my mind because your like producer director brain is trying to think of all the worst case scenarios.
Sure.
Um, but no, it's way too familiar. And also, I don't think I look 16 and I like to be behind the monitor. Yeah.
There you go. That makes perfect sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the first things I thought of because I thought, well, if it's semi-autobiographical, my thought was, okay, someone can act it, but someone has lived it. So sometimes we do want to see the person that lived it, but I understand what you're saying too. That makes sense. Um, I want to talk a bit about you've given a lot of credit to your parents, and I've read about
Mhm.
that. And so I know, of course, that John Hilner and Rebecca Gibble have played your parents in the film. Extraordinary choices for casting, by the way. They did a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
So again, I want to talk about real life parents and how they have been a support to you through this entire process. And then talk to me.
I mean, essentially a ton of casting outreach. Rebecca Gibble ended up, I like the idea of like when I see it, I'm just going to go for it.
Okay.
And so I had auditioned many, many women. And then when I met Rebecca, her personality was also extremely different than my mother's. Like my mom would never wear jeans, for example. And like she showed up like wearing jeans, looking cool, blah, blah, blah. Like I wouldn't peg her as giving the vibe of my mom. But then her doing the lines, like I could see it. And basically right after auditioning her, I was like, okay, I think this is gonna be her. And
Okay.
then yeah, and she's from Rhode Island. So she was a connection that I got from Rhode Island. She had been a theater actress at the GAM, and then also just meeting her, she's incredibly like bubbly, enthusiastic, easy to like do it 1,000 times. And so that sold the addition of having a great personality sold me on her.
Okay.
And then for the dad, I had also auditioned quite a bit, and this one was really tricky because I wanted someone and so I'll get into this in a minute, but I wanted someone to play the father who had something sweet about him. Um, Even though I would have him do some like harsh lines, I wanted us to kind of feel bad for him at moments. And so that was really tricky because some of the lines just come off as so tough, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I couldn't find anyone to be honest. And for a long time it was like I think the dad was the last person I cast. And then I asked John O'Hurley, who plays in a do you
Yeah,
know John O'Hurley?
I do.
Yeah, I'll give him a shout out right now. He went to Providence College.
Hmm.
And so he's an alum from there. And so we had met through a Hollywood trip. And I reached out to him and I was like, do you know anyone? And he recommended John Hilner. And I auditioned John Hilner over Zoom and I thought, okay, I think this is him.
Okay.
And we went and I went with him.
I guess my biggest question relative to your own parents, because you talk about them, I've read articles where you've spoken
Mhm.
about their love and support and their influence on you. So
Mhm.
how have they helped you not only through the process of making this film, but more importantly, how did they help you make it through the process of living
Right.
through all of that?
Yeah. I will say there is some separation. Um, I think I drew a lot, like the fiction part of it, um, there's a lot that I drew from that was separate from the real experience with
Yeah.
my dad. Like I think I portray him a little bit more curmudgeon in the film, um, than he was towards me in real life. Like my parents in real life really had their stuff put together. And they appeared, as far as I remember, everything was like normal with me,
Hmm.
you know? Um, and but that being said, like they were kind of going through their own stuff as well. And I think that like whatever you're going through in your own internal life gets so heightened by something like that. And so, thinking back, I'm sure I could observe some things here and there, but yeah, I mean, I owe them I I literally owe them my life. Like I can't even imagine sometimes when I go and I get an MRI or something, like I see people who are going through something like that, but older. And I
Yeah,
think like I was so lucky to have my parents guiding me through it. I think it would have been a lot more difficult, honestly, if that had happened now and I would have been having to sort it all out on my own.
I get you. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
how I learned to die, to those that have not seen it before, and I'll be vague here. It's the
Hmm.
story of a young 16-year-old girl who has a 60% chance of dying. And so she decides that she's going to embark on this journey where she's not only going to learn some things about herself, but the people around her, I think, and have these last minute, so to speak, experiences. My question is, how did you narrow it down to which experiences? Because as a 16-year-old, there's so many things you've never done before. Like, how did you fine choose that? Or was that, again, part of you in your own life?
Hmm. I think the feature adaptation is a little bit more similar to my own life. But the because I think I went a little bit more hard than I did in the short, to be honest.
Mhm. Okay. Okay.
Um, but in the short, first kiss, getting drunk, driving without a license, like those at the time, I mean, those are just sort of like classic 16-year-old things to do. And I
Yeah.
think there's also something about the fact that like you haven't even done those like very basic things and you're already going to die, and like you're on the cusp of like being aware that like you're still wanting that, like you still want your first kiss even though you're facing death, like
Yeah.
that's really important that that is checked off, because you're not going to die, without having that. Or like in the script it's, virginity, like not going to die a virgin. So I I mean, I just chose those based on a mix essentially of my own life and also just like what a teenager cares about.
Yeah. I get you. And now your
Mhm.
lead has this epiphany. I'll leave it at that. There's this moment in the film where something happens. So again, the question becomes, was that epiphany for her to hear or for them to hear? And I mean, that revelation, I wondered to myself, is it for both?
Hmm.
Or
It's a good question because I think that epiphany, for the parents is probably something that they already know, and it's just a reminder. And I think it's like seeing your child really absorb that is different for a parent. But for the character Iris, I mean, it was really also for her because that was what made it external. It's different knowing you're going to die versus seeing someone else essentially age,
yeah.
and when you really comprehend like the others around you, and there's a line in the film like it's harder to watch someone go through something than the person going through it. I think that there's an internal shift with Iris, and so I think that was necessary for her to come to, see herself and come to terms with that, but also um connect further with everyone else
You
in a
bet.
genuine way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. So if someone were to ask me how I learned to die, what would I say about this film is in my own personal perception? I would say that you have made a short film that deals with three very important things: how we perceive life and death, how death is perceived by other people, but most importantly, learning to not only value but respect that which we love and that which we might lose. But I'm not the filmmaker. So, in 2 sentences, tell everyone how I learned to die.
I want to say it's about learning how to live,
Hmm, it's a good answer. It's a
period.
really good
Yeah.
one. Yeah, I like that one.
Thank
We can
you.
go with 1 sentence. That's good. Now, I realize, of course, that you're turning this into a feature. It was your thesis film. It's due to be out apparently March of 2026 is what you might be looking at. Can you tell us anything about what we can expect in the feature?
Yeah. Um, you can expect that the bucket list, like the stakes are higher for, what she wants to accomplish, and that there's an additional love interest.
Very nicely
Yeah.
put there. Okay. If folks didn't get a chance to New York City, go to New York City, I should say, to see the film, where are you headed next or where can they see it?
Um, and just to clarify, we're hoping to shoot March 2026, not that the
Got
feature
it.
is going to be out.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay.
Yeah. And next for the short is Rhode Island Film Festival.
Very
And
nice.
so I will be posting updates as soon as I can say when it'll be.
I
Mhm.
appreciate that. Now, I don't want to forget to ask about, according to your IMDb, you have 2 more projects coming up, which is we have Gift of the Magi and The Game of Love. Any updates on that? Because I know they're in post-production.
Those are films that I helped produce. And
Oh, okay.
so for them, they're finalizing, yeah, post production. Yeah. The Gift
Okay,
of the
gotcha.
Magi is I actually think it's out already.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah,
Because
it
I didn't
should
see
be.
it. Because on the IMDb, it just shows post-production. So I guess I suppose I should have clicked on it. But I thought, well, I'm going to have her right here. So let's ask you.
Yeah. Yeah, Cassiano Hammer did Gift of the Magi, and
Uh-huh.
Victor Pigas. Yeah, Gift of the Magi is on No Budge, and Victor Pigas did Game of Love, and
Gotcha.
that's still in post production. That's a feature.
Thank you for that. Now, this is the places that I found you on social media. Let me know if I've missed anything. You have your website, of course, which to those that don't know how to spell her name, it's Manyaglassman.com is the website. You're also on Instagram, IMDb, Vimeo, and LinkedIn. Anywhere else?
No, that's it.
And one thing that I hear is that they never get to hear the feedback that comes from us, the audience. So this is just a very simple thank you to those of us who walk along the pathway of grief. And for some of us, that's a lot. It's very difficult for us to ever see a bright side to grief or to ever see sunshine or to ever really understand what it means to be alive. And you've been able to give me, as a widow, and many others, a gateway into looking at things differently. And for that, we are very grateful to you.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Cindy.
You're
Thank you.
absolutely welcome.